in this zone as well.
You said they are the
Political and social, factors that lead to this crisis. Some of those who come, instead of accepting the leadership of the ruling elite of the communities they met, they will now like to, as it were, have their own leadership. And because some of them, have the art of governance, from their areas, and they're a bit more economically wealthier, they now want to impose themselves as the new leaders. So the existing traditional community leaders, and now a mobile settling population, maybe with greater economic resources, greater sensitivity politically, now want to impose. So there's a tension. And these people want to be emancipated. So who are these now that are coming, as it were, to dominate? So this issue of domination can be resolved when you have proper community resolution of some of these issues. And we believe that what we did during what is now being called the emancipation program of having recognized chiefs for the various communities in their own local way, so that they don't feel threatened, their culture is not threatened, their existence is not threatened, their social status is not threatened, and at the same time making those who are coming in feel at home, because they are also citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This has to be done consciously, properly, effectively.
Brilliant. I like how you explain. I guess you're being a professor. You know what I mean? It's like you just gave me a good historical perspective. That's exactly what I was seeking to understand. As far as the nature of the place at that time, and what you guys were trying to do. You know what I mean, to make it better, and how he was involved in that. And you just gave me a perfect summary. Now you mentioned something. You said, you don't think that this is a religious matter per se.
Essentially, no.
Essentially. Now here's a question. When most of this conflict are actually happening, from interviews that we've gathered and actual clips that we've gathered from some of the conflict site, post the conflict, of course, most victims say from different regions that during the fight, most of the Islamic group, for instance, are screaming jihad. Now, and also, when there's a political, aspect, they usually reflect in a religious way. For instance, when you barred certain things like bike riding, they will retaliate by burning churches, even though that's something of a ban that involves everyone, not necessarily just one group of people. Doesn't that say that it is a religious?
Well, there are fundamental causal factors of certain crises. What I was telling about are the fundamental causal factors for the tensions we are having. And those are essentially economic, political, and sometimes social, in terms of social relations. But the two communities involved, one happens to be largely Christian, the other largely Muslim. But the expression, when the crisis now comes, the way it is expressed, although the causal factor was not religious, the way it is now expressed becomes religious, which is unfortunate, because a political issue may arise, like we just finished voting, for example, and it was a free and fair election, and the side that felt they were losing started burning churches. What are churches to do? So it's the expression. They feel that, look, this is the best way to really express their anger, because the person winning happens to be a Christian.
But isn't that a myopic way of thinking?
Absolutely. So this is what I'm saying now, that whoever doesn't know will think that the cause of that problem was a religious fight. But it wasn't. It was a political. But the two people involved, one happens to be a Muslim, and the other one a Christian. And the Christian in this time giving a national broad-based support, even in largely Muslim area as well. He won on a broad base. So anybody who is looking at it with the objective mind we know that this is a free and fair election in which Mr. President has won, although he happens to be a Christian. It's nothing to do with his religion. It is a political acceptability and the realities on the ground. But some of the people involved, because they just find that, well, which is the best way to really express our anger? And unfortunately, they say, oh, let's burn their churches. Let's burn that. It's very, very unfortunate. It's very, very sad. But we thank God that the elite leaders on both sides were able to rise, and government able to rise above this and really nip it in the bud and say, no, look, these are not religious matters. You know, religious conflict is very difficult to resolve if you allow it to boil out. You know, I mean, Northern Ireland was there for a long period before they could able to come down. So nobody wants a religious conflict in Nigeria, and that's why people moved in quickly and said, no, this is nothing to do with religion. It was an election, and the election has been largely free and fair. Both national and international observers said, look, we've done well. So if somebody is not happy about this, the best thing is to just take it to the tribunal. Don't take the law into your own hands. But it just is a very good example of how a purely political matter was now expressed in terms of reaction into religious terms, which is very, very unfortunate.